All right, my friend, I want to talk to you for a quick minute or two or three or four or whatever about Samson. We're going to talk about Samson. He's in the book of Judges, and this is a pretty cool guy. Kind of get an idea that, we've modeled Hercules off of this kind of guy who has the strength of the Lord, strength of more than anybody in that time period, because the Holy Spirit gives it to him. Starting in the book of Judges again, we're in the book of Judges chapter 13, and we are going to go over this really quickly. Try not to skip too much, but there's just a lot in there. First of all, Samson's parents are visited by the angel of the Lord. Another appearance of the angel of the Lord, and he gives all intents and purposes. He gives all indication that this is another appearance of Jesus Christ. So, God opens the womb. That's all. That's the first thing that we learn right there. And just for the first few verses of chapter 13 is that she wasn't able to have children, and he comes to her and says, "You're going to have a child," because God is the one that opens the womb. There is no accidents in God's kingdom. There's no accidental children. There's definitely no accidental children, because I'm sorry, you work hard, and when you have a hard time getting kids, you definitely learn that there is a cycle, there is a specific window, and you aim for that window, but also God created a man and a woman to be extremely desirable to each other around that particular moment, that open window. And God opened the womb for Samson's parents to let them be able to have children. Of course, the angel of the Lord first comes to the mom, to her, and it's like, this is what you need to do. Do not drink any wine or anything. Don't eat any unclean foods, because you're going to have a baby. Don't drink any wine. Don't get drunk. Don't get alcoholic beverages. Don't do anything that will hurt the baby. You hear that? You hear what that is? That's like God Himself giving you prenatal advice. With your baby in the womb, don't eat these things because they could harm your baby. It's pretty cool. And of course, she goes to her husband and says, "This is what all this stuff this angel said to me," and he kind of doesn't believe her. So the angel of the Lord comes back, and this time both of them are there, and he's like, "What is it you said to her?" Because he didn't believe what she said. It's just one of those things where it's like the husband doesn't believe what the wife says until he hears it himself. So he goes ahead and gets the information again. Don't shave this guy's head. He's going to be a Nazirite. He's going to be set apart for God. In verse 22, Manoah's like saying to his wife, "We're going to die because we saw God." And she's like, "We're not going to die. Otherwise, He wouldn't have given us all this information and promised us a baby and this and that." It's like the wisest wife right there. Wise wifely wisdom. I love this scene. It's so funny to me. And Samson, I believe, means little sonny. At least that's what I have written down in my notes. I have to double check on that. Chapter 14, of course, there's just the whole thing with this Philistine daughter that he should have never even ran into, that he fell in love with. As it says here in my notes, that God creates what we need before we know we need it. Samson wasn't supposed to be in that area, but he thought he liked this girl, and it ended up not panning out. Then he ends up getting really mad at the Philistines, and the entire thing is him freeing Israel from the Philistines. There's so much just fighting against the Philistines in that whole time period. And of course, God does what He wants to do. Was it for 14 verse 4? However, his father and mother did not know that it was of the Lord. He was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. See, his parents didn't want him to mess with the Philistines, but God was choosing Samson to take care of the Philistines, and using Samson's, lust and his pride and his stubbornness, all those things God was using. This says the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson mightily. See, that's the important thing about this passage, that Samson was set apart, and a vow was made that this guy would not shave his head, that he would not drink wine, and all these very important things. It was more important that he kept that vow to the Lord than anything else. And that's what it was. The Holy Spirit came upon Samson, so that Samson could do mighty things for God. But he violated that law by dealing with the lion. He kills a lion and then he eats the honey out of the carcass, which is unclean. You weren't supposed to do that right there. It was already before he even had his hair shaved. It was a violation of the law. Then there's this whole riddle thing about the lion, which is pretty interesting. He goes and kills a bunch more guys. Chapter 15, we learn about the little family dysfunction here. He doesn't get it. Samson does not get what God is doing through him this entire time. Verse 11 of 15 is fascinating. 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Adam and said to Samson, "Do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What is it you have done?" And he said to them, "As they did to me, so I have done to them." Listen to that. They went to Samson and said, "The Philistines are rulers over us." Rulers? Okay. Dictators, maybe tyrants, maybe homicidal maniacs of a nation trying to control you. Maybe they didn't want to be free from their sin. They didn't want to be free from their captivity. That was where Israel was at. They were so comfortable where they were living, even though the Philistines were in control, even though darkness was all around them. They didn't want Samson messing with that. They didn't want the Holy Spirit messing with that. That's a big message for us. It's a powerful message for us. The Spirit comes in with His power. Samson, the Philistines were shouting like donkeys, so the Lord uses a jawbone of a donkey to kill. Samson allows him to kill a bunch of the Philistines with that jawbone of an ass piled in a mass. That's what my you heard that. Jawbone of an ass piled in a mass. That's what he did to the Philistines there. And he gets water. God, he's out in the desert and he's like, "Lord, I'm thirsty. Am I going to die now of thirst?" And God says, "No." And he gives him some water to drink out of a hollow, which is pretty cool. Chapter 16. Again, that's the whole message of Delilah. Samson and Delilah. She comes in and she's like, "You, the woman, the man, all that." She's really just a Philistine lady. She wants to get into Samson's trust so that she can find out what it is that makes him strong, what makes him so powerful. He ties a bunch of foxes' tails together and blow torches to burn down some fields earlier, and it's just like he's so good at what he does. What is it? The vow is his strength, not his hair, but the vow. And when he loses that, he loses the Lord at that moment. At the end of chapter 16, the end of Samson here, he's got his eyes gouged out by the Philistines, and he's strung up between two pillars. And this little boy that's leading him around the Philistine camp area, he tells the little boy to have Samson get his hands up on the pillars, and he commits suicide to take out more Philistines, 3,000 men and women Philistines, where the roof falling in, because he crushes the whole building, because the Spirit of the Lord came upon him to do it. We've talked a lot in the last couple of chapters about vows, from Jephthah to Samson, how important it is to keep those vows, and how important it is that God says the vow is sacred. The vow is more sacred than anything we can have. It's important for us to trust God and to believe that He is going to keep His side, His promises, His faithfulness. That's what we see in the Bible. God promised them this land. They didn't take the whole land because they got scared. And because they didn't take the whole land, the whole book of Judges happens. The people are just under turmoil and sin. And we see that in Samson. We see that in everybody, how it's possible for us to get so comfortable with the world and our pleasures, earthly pleasures, that we forget about God and forget about His desire to have a relationship with us. So, cross us down, my friend. Have a good night.